The analogy would be an ocean, right? Where initially right when we pick up meditation, we're at the top where it's very turbulent. Our thoughts are constant and, it's always up and down, always up and down. But then with meditation, I was able to dive deeper into the deeper layers and go down into the ocean where it's very stable and very pleasant. And that's what meditation did for me. I was able to, before meditation, I would always react. After meditation, as I started meditating more and more, I was able to respond better to situations, and not allow anger to come in through me. And, so I'd have a step between when the anger comes into me and then me expressing it. So I'd like stop myself from expressing it. And that made a huge difference in my life.
Are you curious about discovering ways of making your life better? Then welcome to my podcast. I'm Bob Nickman, and this is The Exploding Human. Listen in while I talk with all kinds of people in the fields of personal growth, health and healing, alternative therapies, psychology, spirituality, environment, and the future. I'm looking for those answers that make life better for everyone. You'll meet cutting-edge practitioners, doctors, artists, filmmakers, business people, and those who have overcome challenges. The brave, the curious, anyone who's out there helping us humans to explore, expand, and explode.
Hey, welcome to The Exploding Human. My name is Bob Nickman, and my guest today is Varun Gandhi, and we are going to be talking about water, meditation, and service, among other things. There's a whole slew of eclectic topics that we're going to bring together for you guys today. But first, I'd like to invite you to visit my website, theexplodinghuman.com. Over there, you can see photos of my guests along with the synopses of the episodes and listen to the episodes. Little bio on myself. Donate button if you'd like to support the show through Patreon. You can do that there at the website. There's also a YouTube channel, The Exploding Human with Bob Nickman, add with Bob Nickman, and you can listen to episodes there, as well as the Exploding Human Facebook page. As I said, my guest today is Varun Gandhi. He's actually Dr. Varun Gandhi. He is an engineer. He has a PhD in engineering, environmental engineering, and he's worked extensively in the field of water. And so we're going to talk about the importance of water. We're going to talk about stories. He has a new platform he's going to be launching about the importance of telling your story and finding out about yourself through telling that story. We're also going to be talking about some of the service he does through his meditation center and feeding the homeless. And we're also going to be talking about our educational system and his hopes for the education of his soon-to-be first child. Really great guy. Enjoyed talking to him. So please listen in. This is Dr. Varun Gandhi.
Good afternoon, Varun. It's so great to meet you, and I'm glad you decided to reach out to me and be on this podcast.
Love in abundance, Bob. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, it's love and abundance are two wonderful things, and we're going to talk about. Let's start with what brought you to this point in your life where you really made some big changes. You were kind of a lost guy, as I was at one point in my life, and maybe I will be again, maybe tomorrow.
I think it's a great thing to be lost. It's a good, it's not a good feeling, but it's a great thing to be lost.
Yes.
In that phase. But before I tell my story,
yes,
I want to do this quick thing. I want to remind people to drink water. So I'm going to, invite everyone, whoever's listening in right now, to pick up their bottles and please take a little drink of water with me as both of us do it.
I have some white tea, which is mostly water.
That's perfect. There's a reason I do this. So I call myself a water doctor, and there are two reasons for that. The second reason is that now I'm encouraging folks to drink more water. I realize that water is something that, 75% of our body is water, 85% of our brain is water. Why not feed it more water so that we could rejuvenate ourselves? I also was reading this book that says that 80% or 75 to 80% of diseases can be treated by just drinking more water. So I just want to remind people.
That is a great message. That's come up a few times in this podcast. When I talk to different types of healers, I always ask them about water, and people forget to mention it because if you're in that sort of world, you just do it and they don't mention it. But most people, including myself, don't drink enough water, and I know a lot of people don't like it, which is really an interesting thing. My own mother did not like water. She goes, I don't like it. It makes me nauseous. That's what she used to say.
What?
Yeah. She said, it makes my stomach queasy. And I'm thinking, what are you drinking? What water are you drinking? The tap water? What are you doing? So I don't know. She never liked it. She drank Fresca.
Oh man. Yeah. I don't know.
She lived to be 93. So, I mean,
Well, maybe that's the secret, huh? Fresca.
But folks, don't go by my mom. You guys drink water out there.
So, this is a paradigm shift, right? What this book talks about is that our body, 75% is water, 25% solids. Medicine, the physical meds that we take, that works on the 25% of our body. But the paradigm shift is drinking more water works on that 75%. And now you're actually rejuvenating your body as opposed to taking medicine, which is a temporary effect. That's what this book taught me, and kind of why I call myself a water doctor, a reinvented water doctor. So the previous version of the water doctor is I have a PhD in environmental engineering, specifically in water treatment. My thesis was on the drinking water that came into our tap. So it was kind of dealing with some of the processes around that, the treatment behind it. And as I was going through this, I was lost. College, I was kind of lost. Undergrad, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I tried out multiple different things, finally landed on the thing that my parents, my ancestors, 4 generations before me, something that ran in the family, civil engineering. So I kind of just landed on that just because, everyone before me did it, but I didn't know that what I wanted to do. And then within civil engineering, I kind of found this specific niche of environmental engineering. And I felt a little more heart-based as opposed to constructing structures or, thinking about buildings and things like that. So I kind of focused on that, but again, my heart wasn't in it completely. And so this is a lost phase for me. I was just finding my way, kind of drifting through whatever came next. In my tradition, it's usually we have a bachelor's, master's, advanced degree, then find a job, get married. And, that's kind of like the traditional path, right? So I was in that path, had my PhD, had this really good job. And about 1.5 years into this job, I started having pains in my solar plexus. It just every morning I'd wake up and the question that would come in my mind is, why are you going to this job? You don't find purpose in this job. You don't find meaning in this job. What's taking you there? And that kept coming to me for 2 months until I realized that this job isn't it. This job is not fulfilling me, is not making me happy, and I need to do something about it. So I decided, hey, I'm going to leave it behind, let it go, move on to something else. But I didn't know what that something else was. And that was scary. My parents, I let my parents know that, hey, I'm, going to be leaving my job. And they were like, what? You must be out of your mind. You know how that goes.
Sure. I'm sure they were terrified.
They were extremely terrified. And so there was a lot of resistance from them for the first month or two. Finally, they came around. And in essence, that was me also convincing myself that this is the best thing for me. And I made the plunge. I gave it a 5-week notice. Usually you give in a 2-week notice, 3-week notice, but I was so excited to leave this job. I gave in a 5-week notice. And the moment I gave it, the pains kind of went away. I immediately started feeling better. Like a burden was off me. And I was so excited to this unknown phase in my life.
I love that. It's an interesting thing that you said the pains were in your solar plexus, your gut, gut feeling, gut instincts. The gut has a brain. So we talk about gut health a lot on this podcast, and how stress and emotional factors can affect it. And that's exactly what that was. Your body was telling you something, and the body rarely lies. It doesn't know how.
Yeah.
So you got that message from right in the center, which is
In the
really
center.
interesting. Yeah.
And this was a message that I had known earlier too. In between my bachelor's and my master's, I did an internship for 3 months, a summer internship. And this was some similar kind of job, working in a consulting firm, desk job, working with Excel sheets and a lot of data. And during that 3 months, my body was telling me that this is not for you. And that was the reason that I extended my master's into a PhD. I said, instead of staying into a master's for another year, I'm going to extend it and stay in school for another 5 years. I graduated my PhD and went back to doing the same job that my body told me not to. But then a year and a half later, again, it gave that really, really strong in your face sign that this is not for you. You need to do something different.
So pay attention to your body, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. And this was an unconscious phase in my life, right? I still wasn't wholly conscious. I hadn't started my meditation. I wasn't aware of myself, my thoughts. So I was still paying attention to my body because it was a really strong sign of, it's a pain. Like, you can't avoid it if you get it every morning after a few months.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing how the upbringing and what society tells people to do, they go ahead and do it, and they're like, well, how come it's not working? It's what I'm supposed to do. Well, maybe it isn't.
Yeah.
So, and I think we all kind of go through those phases where we want to do it, for lack of a better term, the right way, the correct way, the acceptable way. Right. And that is not for everybody.
Right. Yeah. And then, you're forcing yourself through it, right? You're like pushing instead of allowing to naturally pull you through it.
So did you go into like a big funk after you quit? You said you felt better, but you were sort of at a loss as to where to go next, I am assuming.
Yeah. So the 2 years that I was in Idaho, so the whole consulting gig was in Idaho. I was in Atlanta before that. When I got to Idaho, I was also in my dark phase. I had just gotten out of a relationship in Atlanta, and I had to take this job, get away from Atlanta because all the memories were there. And so I took this job in Idaho, and for the most of the time, I was drowning myself with alcohol because there was so much pain and suffering from that relationship, from that breakup. And so as I was going through all of this, about a year and a half into it, around the same time I was feeling the solar plexus, I picked up Deepak Chopra's Book of Secrets. And it's a really high level philosophical book. So 90% of it, I didn't really understand. It just went over my head. But the parts that I did pick up was that I need to meditate more. And that's when I started diving into meditation. So then I leave my job, go back to Atlanta. I take this road trip from Idaho to Atlanta, cross country. And I started meditating. I started, diving deeper into myself and realizing that there is more to it than what my life was telling me before that. This was my kind of phase inwards. I was closing myself off. I knew I wanted to become an entrepreneur. I had this inclination from when I was younger too, that I'm a natural entrepreneur. And there have been certain examples in my younger days, like when I was in sixth grade, we had this party in our classroom, and I took it upon myself. So this is like an end of the year party. I wanted to make it fun for the whole classroom, so I took it on myself to arrange the whole, plan out everything, bring out the decorations, make sure people take care of the food, and all of it required funds. So what I did is I created little products that I would sell on the bus. I would sell in school to raise funds so that I could put it towards this project that I was working towards.
Young hustler.
Young hustler. Yeah. And I didn't realize this, something that I'd forgotten for a while until I got to this point in my life where I'm like, you know what? I think you still have it in you, and that's where your real passions lie. So let's follow that.
Okay.
I've always been this believer of, following your curiosity, like being curious about something and just seeing where it leads. It may not lead anywhere, but, just following that path and, figuring out as you go along the way.
There's something about when we're excited about something.
Yeah.
that energy gets transferred all around us, and then we attract, people of like thinking, and things happen that you can't explain logically, which is fine, which I like actually. And so if you follow those kinds of things, which is obviously what you did, things change. Some of it's predictable, most of it is not, and most of it is actually better than what you imagined. That's my experience.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then, I mean, I cut down alcohol at that point. I was, really, really cleansing my life. It was a lot of changes in a short period of time when I picked up meditation.
So you went back to Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where you are now?
Right now, I'm in Southern California. I'm in LA.
Oh, that's right. How did I forget that? You just sent me an email about that. Okay.
And so I moved to Atlanta, and from Atlanta to LA after that. I was in Atlanta for about a couple of years. And during those couple of years, I was building a business with a friend in entrepreneurship. We were consulting with kids in India and overseas who wanted to come to America for grad school. So helping them out through the application process, figuring out what they want, because I was lost in life. I said, hey, as I'm finding myself, let me help other people figure out that for themselves as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So as I was building that, now this is starting meditation. So you know how difficult just starting meditation is, right? Those first 6 months. For me, it was forcing myself to sit in a corner. I rented a room at that time, so everything was in that room for me. And I would pick a corner where everything is behind me. All of my possessions are behind me. I kept my phone to the side, set a 5-minute timer on my phone, and put it on the moon mode so no one would disturb me. And I had a journal, and I would write down my experience going into the meditation. And then once I'm done with it, then I would write during my meditation what happened, and then after that, how I feel. So this was kind of my process of how I began meditation. But a lot of the times I wouldn't even make it to the 5 minutes, 2 minutes, and I'd be done.
It is kind of amazing when you sort of set an intention to meditate and kind of go into that zone, but the thoughts aren't going to let you do that.
Yeah. Especially initially, I feel like,
yeah, it's like
the ocean, it's like the analogy would be an ocean, right? Where initially right when we pick up meditation, we're at the top where it's very turbulent. Our thoughts are constant, and it's always up and down, always up and down. But then with meditation, I was able to dive deeper into the deeper layers and go down into the ocean where it's very stable and very pleasant. And that's what meditation did for me. I was able to, before meditation, I would always react. After meditation, as I started meditating more and more, I was able to respond better to situations, and not allow anger to come in through me. And, so I'd have a step between when the anger comes into me and then me expressing it. So I'd like stop myself from expressing it. And that made a huge difference in my life.
Yeah, I love that. I remember reading about, what's that, his name? Eckhart Tolle.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, unconsciousness equals reactivity.
Yeah.
Reactivity equals unconsciousness. So, there is a tendency for us human beings, when somebody does something, to react rather than respond, as you were saying. And there is something in between there that I forget about quite often, which is that pause of, this thing happened, but really maybe it doesn't have anything to do with me. Maybe it's just happened. It's maybe it's not happening to me, but I can pick that.
Yeah. And when we tend to react, we just, we follow along the story that, hey, this is personal. This meant to happen to me. That person in traffic meant to cut me off. And now
they got up this morning. They got up this morning and they went, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to cut off a guy I've never even met. Right at 2:30. That's what's going to happen.
Or 2:22.
Yep. So it is pretty funny though how we take everything. Well, we can't take everything personally when we're not aware. Which that's an easy state to move around in. A lot of people do move around that way, including myself, unless I'm mindful of that. And that's where I agree. I think meditation is super helpful.
Being mindful of my thoughts. That's the other thing that meditation helped me with, is in the moment, I'm able to discern how I feel about something. And if I'm in a negative state, then I'm able to stop myself or give myself that pause. And that's been a game changer.
See, these are the kinds of things we would probably benefit from teaching children in school. And maybe there are places that do that, but I certainly didn't have anything like that. I mean, there's so many life skills that aren't taught. Math is nice, science is nice, all that stuff is nice. It's it's valuable information, but I think it might be more valuable to teach somebody how to shake hands and look somebody in the eye.
Yeah, stuff that you can't Google, right? All that information you can Google, all the statistics and all day. You don't need to learn that.
Yeah, what does kindness mean, and what is being of service to other people, and what is meditation about? It's really we got it backwards.
Yeah, I'm about 4 months away from being a dad. And
congratulations.
Thank you.
That's nice. That's a game changer, if you want to use that phrase.
I'm looking forward to that phase.
It's awesome. I've got 3 kids. My youngest is 20.
Okay.
So they're not kids anymore; they're adults. But yeah, it's a relentlessly beautiful thing. I used to say, and you'll see this. I can't wait for him to wake up, and I can't wait for him to go to sleep.
Oh man, that sounds like it's going to be a joy.
Well, it is. It's not what you think, and it's just what it is. You can't explain it to somebody until they've had a kid, and then you don't need to explain it.
Yeah.
But congratulations, that's beautiful stuff.
Thank you. And so this was a question that came up with my wife, is about the education, and my stance is that the education system doesn't do enough for a kid, and I feel like there are better ways to educate a kid.
Well, there certainly are, and there's things that I guess we can teach in the home that they don't teach in school. And I don't know, there's lots of alternative ways to educate, and everyone gets to make those choices. Yeah. But I really do think most of it comes from the parents, in terms of how kids move through the world, for good or bad, and then there is the other factor, which is people come into the world the way they come in. And sometimes I'll look at my kids and I'm like, how did you get like that? That's not anything that I was thinking about imparting to you. Not even close. And they just come in the way they come in. But there are it's that nature nurture thing. It's a really interesting thing with genetics and all that kind of stuff. So you'll get to enjoy all that stuff. Not that I'm any expert, because I'm not. I've screwed things up many times.
We learn from that.
Yeah. It makes you forgive your parents, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were such idiots.
And so this was so I left, I was in Atlanta working on this entrepreneurship, started meditating, diving deeper into it. And at this point I'd met someone, and all of this, every time I've met someone in my life, it's always been through a natural occurrence. Like I didn't plan for it. It wasn't like we went on a date or a blind date. It was, hey, we just happened to randomly meet come across each other at a random bus stop, or in the bus, or at a convention or something, and boom, something happens. Mm-hmm. And so I ran into this girl, and who's now my wife of 5 years. And for her, so she lived in Orange County at that time. So that was the reason I moved out here. And as I was going through this whole process of moving, I met somebody who is a spiritual guru and in the LA area. And he was the one who taught me a lot more about the full chakra activation. He taught me about the chakras and how to feel the chakras and how to connect with them. And, and so that was a whole new experience in my life, a whole new phase that began in my life.
Do you want to say who that is?
Yeah, that's my current business partner, Rance Dunbar, Reverend Rance Dunbar. He goes by the Chakra Doctor as well. And he had created this. We started out with full chakra activation as being a guided meditation, and we put together events around it, had 100, 200 people meditating together. And then from there, we put together a bunch of physical cleanses and certain things that are behind me in my on my shelf. And these are to help the body cleanse themselves, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Holistic cleanse.
Interestingly enough, I had Rance on this show.
Oh, okay.
I interviewed him from his where is his ranch out there in where is it? It's
in
like,
Kennedale, Texas.
Yeah, in Texas. So he was sitting outside there, and we did it, and we talked about his past, and I think he grew up in New Orleans or something. Yeah,
yep, that's right.
Bit of a funky past, and he's really turned his life into something else. And that's kind of cool. Tell him I said hello.
Will do, definitely.
Yeah, good dude.
Small world, yeah.
Yeah. I forgot how I even found him. Somebody. Oh yeah, there's a guy that helps me book the show, and he goes, "Do you want to talk to somebody named the Chakra Doctor?" I go, "Yeah, sure." And I know, I was reading some of your some of the points that you sent me, but there was something about feeding a lot of people, and tell me how that started and how that's continuing, because it's many thousands of people. I want to know who's paying for all that.
So right before the pandemic, we had done a spiritual festival in LA called the Spiritual Block Party. We had about 1,500 people. It was a whole day event. And then 5 days later, I went to India. I flew off to India, and I was there for about 3 weeks. During this time, I met someone in the family. He's a friend of the family, but he's also a spiritual mentor, like a guru, and he reads people's fortunes and can, tell you things that you need to do with your life. And so I wanted to meet this guy. I'd never met him. I never heard about him, but my relative was like, "Hey, this is a great guy." And it was like, "All right, let's go meet him." And the one thing that he said, and I was telling him, this is what I'm doing. I have a meditation center out in LA, and we have daily classes. And so he said, in addition to that would be if you could offer free food, have someone come into your kitchen, cook food there so that more people will come into your meditation center. So I took that idea, came back home, landed 5 days later, everything shut down. And then in April, I get a call. And now this call, everything was shut down. A lot of people were losing their jobs, couldn't go into work. And the call was, "Hey, I have this donor who has a lot of money, who wants to do something for the people. What can we do?" So him and I brainstormed, and we came up with the idea of putting grocery bags together. Grocery bags filled with rice, with beans, with oil, sugar, basic supplies. And so we put together about 400 grocery bags, and we started on May 10th, 2020. And a couple of weeks into it, so our intention was to do it one time, but then we realized there was a need for it. So we continued doing it for about 6 months. And at the end, we created 8,400 grocery bags. Now, along the way, we realized there was a need for hot meals because not everyone has a place to live. Not everyone has means to fresh food. So we said, why not prepare small packets and distribute it out into our community? We started out with 100 meals, 200 meals, 300 meals. And eventually we found a team that they come with 15 to 20 volunteers. For the last 10 years of their lives, they've been preparing meals for large gatherings, for conferences, for health fairs on a volunteer basis. There's a nonprofit, and they would put together 3,000 meals for the whole weekend and feed that many people. So they came on board and they said, "Look, we could help you scale up to 1,000 or 1,500 meals every Sunday." And so we were able to do that. We bumped up to 1,000 meals. We saw that there was a need in the community. We went up to 1,500 meals because there was a need in the community. And so somewhere right now, we're between 1,500 and 2,000 meals. We fluctuate. And we have done it every Sunday since then. And all the way through to end of 2022, we're going to continue it all Sundays in 2022 as well. And so this was like an effort that organically kind of came together. It just just happened, and it grew in size as time went on.
Is this at your meditation center? Where these
This
meals?
is at the meditation center, yes.
And let's plug that for a second, because people like to have a good place to meditate, I would think.
So the meditation center, through the pandemic, we took it online, and so Rant is part of that. He's one of the
Okay.
So now he's in Texas, I'm in California. So we've kind of shut down the physical location.
All right.
We do a lot of it online now.
Okay. What is the name?
So the name of the center is called the Joy of Sharing Community Center. And this is in Norwalk. And the reason I mention it is if anyone's interested in volunteering, feel free to reach out to me any Sunday. We'd love to have you. We want to involve more people in the community. These meals go out to about 20 to 25 different cities surrounding LA and Orange counties. And it's serving a lot of people in your community. So if you are interested in helping us out in any which way, we're still looking for donors, donations. We're looking for volunteers on a weekly basis. Either way, any way you can help us, we would love to have you.
So that would involve cooking and driving meals places, dropping them off?
Yeah, what that is we realize that there are a lot of organizations that want to deliver these meals into the streets of LA. And so we partnered up with these organizations. So they come and pick up the meals from our facility.
Oh,
so our facility is essentially a soup kitchen where we put together pasta meal, either a pasta meal or a rice dish, and about 16-ounce packet of each. And we start that at 6:30 a.m. Sunday morning. We finish the meals by 10, about 11 o'clock, packing and everything. And all the organizations between 11 and 12, they pick up the meals from us.
And is that center in Norwalk, you're saying? That's where people come?
Center in Norwalk. That's correct.
I got married at the courthouse in Norwalk.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was such a hilarious thing. The guy took the money, you pay the fee. And he goes, go stand over there by the chapel door. So we go out from the clerk. The chapel door's open. Same guy. He's now gone. And he put on a robe. And then he did the ceremony, which was, non-denominational. He took pictures. He'd stop in the middle. It was like being in some small town somewhere. It was hilarious. We were laughing so hard because it was a one-man operation. One way to get married. You don't have to deal with a lot of people's hurt feelings that they didn't get invited or they got seated at the wrong table.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot can go wrong.
And so how are you spending your time these days?
One of the things that I learned during my meditations was that this is one of the theories or concepts that I've kind of understood, is that we're constantly creating stories, right? Every moment of our life is a story that we're telling ourselves. We have certain incidences that happen to us in our lives, and we try to create a story to, bridge those incidences and make meaning out of it. But that story is changeable, you can alter it any which way. But we decide to choose and pick one story and hang on to it because of some past experience within us, something that's, programmed inside of us to make us react or make us feel a certain way. And that's why we behave and act in a certain way. So what I'm doing right now is I'm creating a digital course called What's Your Story? And an analogy for this is we're in a movie theater and we're watching this movie on the screen. The screen is a tool to show you the movie. There's a projector in the back. That's also a tool to project what the film contains onto the screen so we can watch it. Now, this whole operation, this whole mechanism happens in our lives on a daily basis. What do I mean by this? So the projector is right here, the third eye, which is the imagination. So our imagination takes an information that our film, which is all of our past memories, all of those defining moments, all of those things that made a change or made a belief, that we created a belief in ourselves. All of those instances are contained in this film. That film is what's inside of us. Our third eye takes information from this film and projects it onto the screen, which is the people in our lives, which are the instances in our lives, which are experiences in our lives, which are the places in our lives. Everything that happens in our life is a screen and our imagination makes up that story the way it is based on this film. So the whole course is creating your life film. What does that mean for you individually? And how did each of those memories, each of those experiences affect you at that time, and how it continues to play out in your life right now?
That seems like a very some powerful work to be able to see why we have chosen, and it is our choice, why we've chosen to look at things the way we do. And that can be changed. You can rewrite that story and make it the new story.
So the idea is that, like, once you write it down and go through a certain questions to understand how each of those instances, each of those experiences have affected you, now you know how it affects you, and now you have the power to rewrite that story, to alter that story so that it could be a more empowering story, and you can, it'll help you move in the direction that you want to go. Because most times stories that are not empowering are holding you back.
Yeah. When you think about statements that we can make about almost anything, which is, let's say I have a belief, which I don't have this, but I'm just going to pick something that is pretty common. Most people can't be trusted. Okay. So let's say I believe that. I don't really believe that, but I think there are some people that cannot be trusted. There are a lot of people that can. And it also depends on what the situation is. But if I grew up in a home where my parents weren't to be trusted, they would act erratically and illogically, and maybe even cruelly or violently or something like that. And I go through life thinking, I got to be careful of everybody. I can't trust one single person, and I'm only going to open my heart so far, because why would I do that? Because it's a recipe to get hurt. So I move through life and I can't trust anybody. Now, who's limited is, are you protecting yourself, or are you limiting yourself with that belief? And, just because the people in let's say your family couldn't be trusted, does that mean everybody can't be trusted? And that's a tough one, because, that's right at the core. I mean, I know enough people that have grown up that way, and they really move through life like that. And you feel for it. And it's really hard to change that stuff, because it's so, well, I'm going to say cellular is how it feels. It feels, any belief feels like it feels real because you've been doing it for so long. And how do you change that? How did you work on that kind of stuff? I mean, obviously meditation was part of it, but what, maybe through this storytelling thing that you're doing?
Yeah, what happened is several of these beliefs have come out to me from creating this life film. So when I was going through this whole process, one of the things I realized was that I was a passive observer of my life. I was watching the whole football game from the sidelines as opposed to being an active participant. And so that was one of the themes in my life that kind of popped out while I was doing this life story, creating my life film. And, when you're writing out these experiences, there's certain prompts, certain questions for each of those experiences. So when you put together, you come up with this experience that, in my childhood, maybe I saw my mom not trusting my dad for something, and that pattern, came in me. So when you kind of objectively see that, right, you're not emotional at that time, you're objectively looking through an objective lens, and this will allow you to separate yourself from those emotions, from the attachment towards that pattern or that behavior. And so this is like a session that you go through, right? You're sitting down for the sole intent and purpose of understanding what your film looks like, without allowing those emotions. I know this is the hard part, but not allowing those emotions to affect you at that time. So when you sit down in this environment, you're objectively looking at each of these experiences, and you can understand how they have affected your behavior. So when you know this, right, when you know this certain experiences of this person can affect my behavior in a certain way, when you are in that situation, you'll pay better attention. When you're in that situation, you'll become more mindful or more aware of where you are going. And as you become more and more aware in the moment, you can stop yourself. You can break that pattern so that you could, in essence, you're starting to create a new situation or a new pattern for yourself. But the key over here is to become more and more aware in the moment as you're going through that situation, even though it may be something that's only in your head and not in real life. Now I'm realizing that a little bit of fear is always there with me, and that it's no point in trying to run away from that fear.
Yeah, I think it can be pretty valuable. It's somebody once said to me back in the day when I was doing stand-up, I'd say I get really nervous before I go on stage sometimes. Not always, but a lot I did. He goes, "Oh, that just means you care." I went, "Oh, okay. Well, that's a better way to look at it than just I'm a scaredy cat."
Yeah.
Yeah.
You care on the outcome, like you care on the performance.
Yeah. So if you were to say to somebody who comes to you and they say, "Varun, I'm lost. My life is directionless. I don't even know where to begin. Can you tell me just a few things so I can start to move in a new direction and find what that thing is that's going to make me feel much more alive and focused and alive really is the right word, I think." What would you say to somebody like that? Because you were there.
Yeah. When I was in a state of just completely lost, confused what I wanted to do, I had too many things going on in my mind, right? There was thoughts pulling me in different directions. One thought would say this, move in this direction. Another thought would pop up and move in the opposite direction. And because of that, my mind was just a jumbled mess. What helped me in that time was giving myself space and allowing myself to better understand me and what I truly want, right? It's like that I was lost, I was out of touch with that voice in my body, my spirit, my soul, right? And because I was too focused on the mind and all the thoughts that were pulling me in all these different directions, what that space allowed me is to connect with that voice on the inside. And when I was better connected with that voice, I was able to understand what truly moved me and what truly was, I was just doing it for show. Just taking it because society wanted me to do. That was the next thing to do. And so now, instead of operating from that space of, this is what I should be doing, I'm actually focused on what feels good, what feels right. And so when I got that call in April 2020 that, hey, we have someone wanting to do something, and that felt right at that moment. I tuned into my body, and it felt like, okay, that's what I wanted to do, and that's the right thing to do at that time. And so I pursued it. So I feel like giving yourself that space will allow you to get to a point where you can better understand yourself, and then you'll know which direction to move in.
I like to think that most of the people that listen to this show have kind of arrived at that, but maybe not. Maybe that's why they're listening. It's there are those times in life, I've had a number of them where, the thing I was doing was very important to me and I really was passionate about it. And then it ended for some reason, either on its own through not me, or it was, I'm done with this. I want to do something else now. And so there's a segue into something new. And it is a little bit scary to go, this is an unknown. I think it's kind of a cool thing to keep an open mind about, things, possibilities, and steer toward the things that seem to be working, even though they're not conventional or accepted or, the path that you were told to pursue.
I think the most magical things in my life have happened when I've pursued something with an open mind, not knowing beans about it going into it, but just teaching myself through the process. Everything since I've left my job was self-taught, everything.
Well, I want to thank you for being on the show and for reaching out to me. I always, well, I don't want to say always, almost always respond to people that reach out to me and have a good message. And I like having them on the show. I think I've only had one person that I went, no, it's not happening. It was the person's name. It was some made up name that I thought was stupid. So I didn't
There's my judgment coming in. How about that? It could have been the best interview ever.
Yeah, he could have told the best message and moved a lot of people.
Well, I forgot his name conveniently, so he's out there helping somebody else, I hope.
I hope so.
So let's tell the folks how they can get a hold of you if you want that, and you know what's coming up and anything that would help you advance your wonderful services that you're performing for mankind.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. Thank you for having me. And to hit me up, Instagram would be a great place. You could find me at Dr. Varun Gandhi. That's DrVarunGandhi. My website is the same thing.com, drvarungandhi.com. So either of those would be a great place to reach out to me. Things that I'm working on. The one thing is the What's Your Story course. So I'm working on putting the whole course, the digital course together. Another thing is we have this ongoing Sunday project that's going to continue all the way through 2022. And the final thing is I'm working to put together a investor, like an angel fund, to invest in companies that are wellness, plant-based oriented, that support the environment, that preserve the environment, protect the environment, and for the well-being for everyone. So I'm putting that together, and it's also called Ahimsa Fund, which is Ahimsa is Sanskrit for nonviolence.
AHIMSA. I love it. You're in a baby and investing and water. That's what you're all about today.
Yeah.
Drink water.
Drink
everybody.
Water. That's the main message.
That's what I'm going to do as soon as this ends, which is going to be like now. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Bob. It was fantastic.
Appreciate it. Thank you, folks, for listening to The Exploding Human. Please check out the website, theexplodinghuman.com, the YouTube channel, The Exploding Human with Bob Nickman, and The Exploding Human Facebook page. Once again, I want to thank Varun Gandhi for joining me on the show, for reaching out to me, and for a wonderful discussion. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I know I did. I enjoyed talking to him. Have a beautiful day. Thank you so much.